Well, Mr. Foucault, if I'm thinking at your books like Histoire de la folie et Le mot et les choses, I got the impression that you are working on a completely different level and also just with an opposite aim, opposite goal. If I'm thinking about the word schematism in relation to human nature, then you are just trying to work out that there are several periods, several schematisms. What do you think about this?
Well, if you permit, I will answer in French, because my English is so bad that I would be ashamed to answer in English.
It is true that I mistrust the notion of human nature a little, and for the following reason. I believe that the concepts or notions that a science can use, not all have the same degree of elaboration. Let's take the example of biology. Within the field of biology, there are concepts that are more or less well established, like the concept of a reflex. But there also exist peripheral notions which do not play an organizing role within science. They are not instruments of analysis, and they are not descriptive either. These notions simply serve to point out some problems, or rather, to point out certain fields in need of study.
Ou encore qui servent à indiquer des domaines d'objets à étudier. Prenez, par exemple,
for instance, there exists a very important concept in the field of biology,
c'est tout simplement la notion de vie.
The concept of life.
Au XVIIe,
in the 17th and 18th centuries, the notion of life was hardly used when studying nature.
Ne se servait pas du concept de vie.
One classified natural beings, whether living or non-living, in a vast hierarchical tableau. Life was a concept they didn't use and didn't need. At the end of the 18th century, a number of problems arose. For instance, in relation to the internal organization of these natural beings. Moreover, thanks to the use of the microscope, different sorts of phenomena and mechanisms that had been unclear in the past and could not have been perceived until then suddenly came to light. The developments in chemistry have also highlighted certain problems in relation to the connections between chemical reactions and the physiological processes of organisms. And that's how an entire field appeared, one that was completely new for biologists, one that is nowadays known as life. Life was a concept that served to point out new fields of study that science still had to discover. I would say, as a historian of science, that the concept of life was an epistemological indicator, an index of the problems that still had to be uncovered. And I asked myself whether perhaps one could say the same thing about human nature. Foucault is therefore comparing Chomsky's concept of human nature with the concept of life as used in biology and in the history of that science. He does this because he sees the concept of human nature more as an indication of a research program rather than as an indication of humanity's potential for achievement. For him, human nature acts as a scientific shopping list and nothing more.